Blake Lewis does a great job covering the Washington Redskins, Redskins Wire, USA Today. He's all over the place. And I guess you get a much deserved day off with the bye this weekend.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I've been running around, if you want to call it day off, so to speak, running errands and still writing, So, but it's definitely well deserved. And this football team, cute, it needs the rest. They need to get some of their players healthy because they're a banged up bunch right now.
That's a game the other night where, listen, you can't put it on the quarterback. Quarterback played well. Receivers got to come down with the football. I mean, it's as simple as that. The play calling was there. Cousins made some plays with his legs. Did you get the sentiment afterwards that that's a game that the Redskins, the players felt that that's a game they could have won, they should have won, that they let get away from them?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I will say this, though. I'm kind of defending Josh Stockton this week because his first-round draft pick, and that's why he was drafted, because of his vertical and able to make those type of plays. That would have been a tough catch for most receivers in the NFL to come down with. And the fact that he was in position to make the play just goes to show you what they think of him, where they think he's progressing to. And I think you're going to see, as the season progresses, you're going to see him evolve into their natural number one receiver, with Pryor being their number two guy.
Well, listen, I hear what you're saying. All I heard about this kid, even during training camp and early on, was he was going to be a playmaker. To me, the ball hits you in the midst like that, you got to make the catch. Because what it is then it's a reflection on Cousins, right? Because everyone wants to turn around and rip on the quarterback, which after a while it just gets annoying. I mean, to me, he hasn't played poorly this year, Cousins. I still think,
No. He's played above
yes.
football.
Do you think they're really missing Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon?
Without question. But what they're not missing them at in positions of is, and this is, it's funny to say this because I'm writing an article as we speak about Cousins, how his play over the first 4 games has proven to me that the Redskins need to pay the guy, because the last 2 games were against AFC playoff teams last year. And he shredded Oakland. He ripped them apart. And,
yes,
you go to the Kansas City game, he had career highs in rushing attempts and yards, rushing yards. So the last 2 games against 2 quality opponents, he's shown you more diversity to his game. And I say, as far as your question to Deshaun and Pierre, where they don't miss them is that he threw up that ball to Doxson, and he also made a play with Pryor early in the first quarter. Those are 50-50 balls that he would have never thrown to Pierre or Deshaun in those type of situations. He didn't trust himself, first of all, to make a play like that. He didn't trust the guys in them because they weren't the biggest receivers. So this is a little bit more of a maturation of Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, because he's finally got some big receivers that are able to do some different things. As far as the home run threats and things like that, without question, they're missing Deshaun's speed, because not only did he take your corner out of the game, he took your safety off the top, too. They don't have a guy that can do that right now. Pryor's a fast guy. He's one of those big, fast guys. Once he gets moving, Deshaun was in your secondary before you could blink, and they missed that. But getting back to, the whole thing here, I just think this offense is going to evolve, and let's not forget, the 2 biggest weapons in their offense, even when Pierre and Deshaun were there, were Jordan Reed and Jamison Crowder. Jordan's been nicked up, and by him not being underneath and being available to play, it's affected Jamison's game, because Jamison is the other guy that would eat underneath too in the slot. So now teams have kind of taken him out of the game with Jordan not being in there the whole time. So I think when they come back from this bye, you're going to start to see more of the dynamic of the offense. And obviously they've added Chris as a big part, integral part of the offense too. Chris Thompson. The running game's much improved. So I just think this is a football team that, with the Eagles, I think that they're going to be going at it this year. I think that those 2 teams are right there with Dallas.
But let me ask you, is it safe to – oh, no doubt. And listen, the Giants have their own issues at 0-4. If they can't beat the Chargers at home on Sunday, then you might as well back up the bus and call it a day. The other – What's that?
I said, if you're a Giants fan, you start thinking Saquon Barkley.
Nah, listen, there's a lot of football left. Listen, you don't go that route, but here's the problem, right? When you start to lose games like that, you still have to play competitive football. And when guys start to turn on each other, that's when a locker room's lost. I don't see that as the case right now. I don't like that the running back or the wide receiver runs his mouth a little bit. Talks about the plays that Tampa Bay knew what kind of plays they were running. He needs to shut up and play ball and just grow up. Marshall's been just a disaster. Marshall's given him zero production, just like Deshaun Jackson hasn't really given Tampa Bay production. But what I wanted to ask you is before, and you're talking about two big-time wide receivers that a lot of people thought had a lot of gas left in the tank. That game against Washington the other night, that was a litmus test game. And you mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles win two games where you get a 61-yard field goal from Elliott to beat the Giants, and then you come back and you win a game against the Chargers, which is a gritty win. You do it with some defense. You can run the football. Those are two games that the Philadelphia Eagles aren't winning last year. So what's happening right now is they're growing. Yeah, they're growing with confidence, and I think that's the issue. The Eagles have a bunch of home games coming up. They can really start to separate themselves a little bit from the rest of the pack in the NFC East.
Well, I tell you, the two big differences that to me make the Eagles and Redskins the two front runners now in this division is defense. And they have defenses that are opportunistic, that are getting after opposing teams' quarterbacks. And I think that is something that any quarterback is a friend of. And, I think with the Eagles, you're going to start seeing them run the ball a little bit more, and they should. You don't want to make this the Carson Wentz show just yet. The guy's phenomenal. He's shown what he can do. But again, the best, aid for a young quarterback is the running game.
Yep.
And I think Jay Gruden has figured this out. Hell, I think Sean McVay out in L.A., who was here last year, he's figuring out that he's got a monster in Todd Gurley. So, I think sometimes these coaches outcoach themselves, but when you run the football, everything slows down. And what happened in the second half of the Monday night game, Kansas City started running the football, and then it opened up everything for Kelsey underneath, and, they made their run. So it's good to talk about this, though, Q, to be able to talk about the teams that we cover and teams that a lot of people nationwide thought were going to be bad football teams.
Well, that's the thing.
They're really not.
Yeah,
They're
listen,
football teams.
You're right, because you look at the Jets are 2-2, the Rams are 3-1, Detroit's 3-1. You know this. The NFL, it is a week-to-week proposition, but I always maintain this: you can't give up games on Sunday. You basically have to go out there, you have to play, you got to execute. You come away with a win, you come away with a win. It doesn't matter how you get it done because everything adds up, right? We've talked about this over the years. You can't win divisions in September and October. You can lose them, though, and I think we're seeing that in the NFL right now because there is parity. Look at New England. They're not dominant. Their defense stinks. And then last night, you don't even hear it during the broadcast, Belichick's taking the ball out of Brady's hands. I mean, no one really brought that up last night. It's not about kicking a field.
They shut down. Yeah,
yes.
They won on their defense.
Yes.
And, that's the other thing, too, that I'm trying to remind people, because I've had a lot of people tell me, social media, you cover the Redskins, so of course you're going to sell Kool-Aid. And I'm like, no, listen. When I look at the Eagles and when I look at the Redskins, first of all, I said that the Redskins were going to play Kansas City close, and it was going to be. My actual prediction was 20-17 Kansas City. People are like, they're going to get blown out, and I'm like, no, listen. The Eagles showed me a lot. I think the Eagles, personally, I think the Eagles didn't believe that they were going to be in the game the way they were, and I don't think they just finished. They didn't know how to close them. The
fourth quarter's been killing them.
They did. They had Kansas City on the ropes. So I saw some things there. But with the Redskins, I keep reminding people, look at their schedule in the first quarter of the season. The four teams that they played the Eagles, who were 3-1. They played Oakland, who's 2-2. They played Kansas City on the road, who's 3-1. And they played the Rams on the road, who are 3-1. So my point is they played playoff teams, basically. And to come out of that at 2-2, where you probably realistically should be 3-1 yourself. The only game I think they got outplayed in was the first game against Philadelphia, where they just looked like they weren't together. But ever since then, they've been really good. And defensively, they've been outstanding. That's the big key for this team right now, is that they've got defensive play that's changing the field position for them a lot easier than they've ever had in the past.
All right, let me get to a couple things before I let you get out of here. We always talk about the game on the field, and then you've had some issues off the field. I'm just curious, what'd you make of Cam Newton's comments the other day?
It was tasteless. I mean, you got to know better than that. There's just no place for it. You know, I don't want to come up here and be Mr. PC. I mean, I don't know if it was a joke or not, but even if it was bad timing, bad place for it. It's just not called for. The flip side and irony of it is that the young lady who the thing was said about, she said something that was totally asinine too. You know, a couple years ago, and these things come back and haunt you. So,
hold on a second. When people decide to take 20,000 tweets and decipher them, yeah, I mean, see, the problem is when you say something against someone that someone doesn't like, right away people want to dig up the dirt. And listen, they both sound foolish. They don't.
Yeah,
they both.
do.
I'm sorry, they both. But you know, you can't do that. You got to have more respect. Yeah.
Cam was out of line, and you know, it's just a horrible look. It really is. It's a horrible look in today's society. It's a horrible look in any time for anyone to say something like that. But considering the microscope that the NFL is under, the microscope that players are under, can I even go further? The microscope that African American quarterbacks are under. You got to be smarter than that, and that's
yeah. But let me ask you something, Lake. Hold on a second. You said something that's interesting. Why are African American quarterbacks under scrutiny? In what way? Because I think the media sometimes they push a certain narrative where, listen, if you say a quarterback who happens to be an African American quarterback is athletic, you know, right away someone takes that and it's misperceived. You know, where a white quarterback, he made a smart football play.
Yeah,
right?
I take it that way. I do. I mean, myself, being African American, I take it that way because.
Why? If he's making a good play with his legs and he's athletic, I can say the same thing about Brady. Eli Manning made an athletic play, and the last time I checked, he's white.
Well, the thing is that when you hear Alex Smith, you know, who's athletic. I mean, first of all, you're playing pro sports, you're athletic. Come on. So let's take that narrative out of the equation right off the top. I mean. Tom Brady may not be athletic.
But here's the thing. But Newton's under scrutiny because of what happened a couple years ago during the Super Bowl, where he did not want to take on the bullets. He didn't want to take on the questions.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's under scrutiny for several different things. But I think the reason why I think for him as an African American quarterback was a bad look for him too is because he is the face of black quarterbacks. Meaning, this is a guy that has taken a lot of scrutiny for a lot of different things. And I think sometimes he hasn't handled it the right way. I mean, he's a brash dude, and let's just call it like it is. And sometimes that brashness just rubs people the wrong way. And
well, you got to listen. You're gonna fire off. You got to be able to take return fire. It works both ways. It does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know that.
But I've always said this: why fire off? I mean, if you're speaking about. Okay, if he speaks out about, you know, the whole Kaepernick situation, that's understandable. You know, I appreciate guys that feel that they have a voice for something, you know, that's reasonable.
Right.
But for other things that are non-related to anything that people care about, I just think sometimes you're just talking. Well, you just become a.
I can give you about 100 players that do that. I can give you.
Yeah. But
But
as an MVP of the league just 2 years ago. Yeah,
you're right. It's a bad look. No, listen, you're right. And it adds to the fact when he's probably not 100%. He hasn't been playing lights out football. You know, then all of a sudden, what do? Right, the light it gets a little brighter, it gets a little hotter, and I think you can make that case. Listen, Matt Ryan, he won the MVP last year. You know, and again, is Atlanta, do they look like that dominant team? No, but everyone's going to wait to see if Matt Ryan's going to step up his play, and this is a 3-1 team. So I think the quarterbacks are always under scrutiny.
But one thing I'll say about Matt Ryan is the same thing I've said about Eli Manning for people in that market who were Giant fans. I've always respected Eli Manning because he's always taken the high road. I mean, he had a chance this year
these guys.
to really just bury his coach and possibly put his coach on his hot seat for real. He didn't do that, and I don't know a lot of guys that would.
He never does.
I mean, that wouldn't have done that, and I respect that though. I mean, it's something I will say here about Cousins. You know, this team's done him wrong. I mean,
I've said it. Pay him, but again, they just you know, it's like it's almost though you get the sense that they would have potential buyer's remorse. And again, I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to go with your.
They better pay
yeah.
the dude. They got to pay.
Or
that
he's
guy,
or he's going to be under center with San Francisco. So.
Pay the guy because you've been looking for a quarterback for 20 plus years. You got one. Whether you you think he's Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, there's only two
Hold
of
on
those
to him.
guys.
Yep. All right, listen, my friend. Always good stuff. Always appreciate the opinions and the takes and catching up. And enjoy your off week. I know you're working hard. We'll definitely give you a good follow on Twitter. Lake Lewis does a great job covering the Skins. Also, the National Football League. We'll talk next week, pal. Always appreciate a couple moments.
Okay, take care, man. Appreciate it.
All right, you got it. Lake Lewis does a good job. Always, he's got some good opinions. We don't always agree. But he does a heck of a job covering the Washington Redskins reporter, TV analyst, USA Today as well, Redskins Wire.